Oh, man. What do you even say about that? I was about to kind of write a script. I wanted to actually have like a focused structure of things that I wanted to say. And I decided against that. I want to just talk about yesterday's final round of the 2025 Masters and how Rory went about it from the heart, not in a not in a canned way, not in a scripted way. So yesterday, um, at the risk of feeling caught up in the emotions, recency bias, uh, being a sucker for the Masters and anything that happens at the Masters, I I was and I and everyone else was on an emotional roller coaster. And for someone like me who champions the idea of acceptance, I was living and dying by every single shot. Rory looked like he was living and dying by every single shot. Everyone watching that was living and dying by every single shot. And while acceptance could very well mean anything can happen and I'll be okay, acceptance can also look like I can experience any emotion and I'll be okay. I I can I can have the highs and the lows emotionally, golf shot wise, and clearly Rory was experiencing that. I was experiencing that, and that was a kind of an exercise in self-acceptance, right? The idea of I'm going to feel whatever I'm going to feel and I'm going to be okay with it. I'm going to let myself feel the full range of emotions. And I believe that's a very strong form of acceptance where you say, emotions are not bad, emotions are natural. That's acceptance of emotions. Bad emotions or happy emotions, negative emotions, highs and lows, that is the color that makes life enjoyable. Acceptance can easily seem like you are robotic, nothing affects you emotionally. Any result can happen and I'll be okay. And meaning I will respond in very subdued ways to things that happen. And I don't think that's acceptance. I don't think that's true acceptance. I think true acceptance says, I'm going to hit this shot and I'm going to give it everything I've got. And I'm going to experience emotions as a result of it. And then I'm going to accept the result and be present going forward. And Rory does a really, really good job of accepting his own emotions. That's the reason why I like him so much. That's the reason why a lot of people like him so much. It's also the reason why a lot of people dislike him because he is very accepting of his own emotions. He expresses his own emotions openly. He says what's on his mind. And there's times when he hasn't said what's on his mind, and I don't like it when he does that. I think that's non-acceptance of his emotions. It looks like he's artificially suppressing them. So Rory is very good at emotional acceptance. But what I think Rory did not do well enough was golf result acceptance. He went into the tournament. He said on, I believe it was Wednesday, was his presser. You know, as they always do, they ask him about the 11 years since his last major win, the 11 years of trying for the career Grand Slam. the 14 years since his epic collapse, his 80 in the final round of the 2011 Masters, everyone always asks, he always gets questions about that every single year. And as he said afterwards, it's an incredible burden to carry, to feel that every single time you show up to a place. But something he said going in that presser was the idea that life goes on, the idea that all of this stuff has happened in his past, and good and bad, and what you realize is that no matter what happens, life goes on. When a bad thing happens, life goes on. When an incredible thing happens, life goes on. 2011 happened, and then life moved on. His life moved on. Golf life, golf world, views of him moved on. And some people hang on to that. Some people try to bring him back into that past. But his mentality going in to this Masters was, you know what? I'm going to give it everything I got, and however it works out, life goes on. And that is an amazing pre-acceptance. I think that level of pre-acceptance will allow for maximum freedom. Because now, if anything can happen, good and bad, you're not scared of any one of those things. You're not scared of bad things happen. You're not going to play to avoiding a mistake. You're not going to steer the ball out there because you don't. You're okay with wherever the ball goes. And he did that so well for most of the first 54 holes, especially on Saturday. It looked like he was in a total flow mindset of, I'm going to leave it all out here. And it sure seemed like he did. But Sunday afternoon, as he said afterwards, he said, I was extremely nervous. Now, nerves are good. He said so. Nerves are good. That means you're where you want to be. He said his legs were like jello on the first tee box, which is crazy to hear. I mean, this guy has been in the biggest moments in golf for the last 20 years, however long it's been. He has been doing this at an incredibly high level in pressure situations for the better part of 2 decades. And his legs are jello on the first tee still. So what does that tell us about when we experience that? It's okay. The best player in the world, first or second best player, I mean, arguably the best player in the world at this moment, felt jello legs nervousness on the first tee. So give yourself some grace when you feel that, because it's normal. But from there, it was clear that he was not in the same accepting mentality. Sure, he was experiencing all those emotions, that emotional acceptance we talked about, but the golf shot acceptance, the end result acceptance that he had going into the tournament, and then for most of the first 54 holes, you know what? No matter what happens, life goes on. That mentality did not seem to exist on Sunday. It seemed like every shot was the most important thing of his entire life. And on the one hand, that has value, right? That will engage you in the present. But on the other hand, it means that you will still linger and ruminate on things that have already happened. And your mind will jump into the future of how monumental every shot in front of you is going to be. And that pulls you away from the present. That means that you are driven by the round of golf, and you're not driving the round of golf. You're being driven by the moments that you're experiencing. You're not driving the moments that you're experiencing. On Saturday, it looked like he was driving himself. He was driving the moments he was experiencing. On Sunday, it looked like the moments were driving him. He had moments where he looked in total presence and focus and freedom. I think of the second shot on 15, the massive draw he hit around the trees to like 10 feet, missed the eagle putt. And I think those two shots are a really good example of total freedom and total presence, but then the monumental, what does this putt mean for this round? It was a really bad putt. He missed it really low. Obviously, these greens, I've never been on these greens. I've been to the Masters and I've seen how incredibly sloped these greens are. And as he said, they were super fast. So difficult putt, right? We can only read so much into, okay, he missed a putt for eagle. That's, you're going to miss putts. So the moment looked like it was driving him most of the day. And that's what made it incredibly entertaining. It looked like how he felt was a product of um, the incredible weight of the moment. And that's what made it so entertaining, was he was being pulled along just like every single one of us. That's what makes him so fun to watch. But it also leads to lacking control, lacking presence, lacking full focus and full freedom. And I think of the shot on 13, where he hit a great tee shot with a 3-wood or something, and then he hit a layup to a perfect position, and he has this pitch shot or this long kind of half wedge shot up the chute of the green, plenty of room left. You can pull it 15 yards left of the flag, and you're going to end up pretty close. And there's 10 yards right of the flag that you're probably going to be okay. It was arguably one of the easiest possible wedge shots you could hit. And it looked so guidey. And again, speculation, I can't possibly know what he was feeling in that moment, but you got to imagine under that kind of pressure, in that kind of situation, the guidiness that it looked like he had was the moment driving him rather than him driving the moment. His emotions were driving the car, and his thinking, thoughtful, mindful, present, focused, in the zone brain was in the passenger seat, just watching the feeling brain drive the car. And those moments happen. Those moments happened, it seemed like every other hole that happened, maybe every shot that happened to Rory yesterday. But that's what can happen if you allow the moment to drive you, if you allow your feelings to drive you. And what can we do to not let that happen? When we're in our own situation like that, and I don't think anybody listening to this has ever, or maybe will ever, be in that situation. I hope so. I've been in similar situations where the moment was driving me, where I was being yanked out of the present, and I've done a bad job of coming back to the present. But how can you even have a prayer of coming back to the present in those kind of situations? I'm going to say mindfulness, groundedness, acceptance. Those three come to mind for me. So what do I mean by these three? Mindfulness means that you are aware of where you are, how you feel in space and time. And it means that you are not mentally in the future or mentally in the past. It means that your mind is where your body is. Maybe you've heard the phrase, be where your feet are. And if your mind is thinking about how bad it would be to dump this into the creek, how bad it would be to make a bogey here, how amazing it would be to make an easy birdie here. I just desperately want an easy birdie here. Then your mind is not where your feet are. Your feet are at an 82-yard pitch shot. Your feet are not at birdie. Your feet are not at the green jacket ceremony, right? You're to be mindful is to be where your feet are. And you can always choose that. You can always choose to bring your mind back to the present. I've talked a lot about mindfulness and meditation, and the one that I do, not nearly diligently enough, but the one that I do is a 5-minute breath-centered mindfulness practice where I sit down, focus on my breath, and then when my mind leaves my breath, when my mind leaves where my feet are, as it were, I bring my mind back to my breath. So that's the groundedness that I was talking about. Groundedness means I am here. I am on the ground. I'm not floating off. My mind is not floating off somewhere else. It's grounded to what's in the present. And what is in the present? Your 5 senses. Your 5 senses represent what your body is feeling in the present. And this is our number one way to be present despite the chaos around us. This would be the number one way Rory could have been more present throughout this round. And again, I'm going to say this a million times. This is speculation. I don't know how Rory was as far as being present or absent-minded or floating off mentally into the past and the future. Probably mostly future if we're guessing. I can't possibly know that. No one can possibly know that. He lets us into his mind a little bit, but we can't know that, how he was feeling over that third shot on 13. But the way Rory could do it, and hopefully did do it and tried to do it, would be, what is my body feeling right now? What am I feeling? What am I seeing? What am I smelling? What am I tasting? What am I hearing? And all 5 of those senses are happening right now. They cannot be happening anywhere else. You can't be hearing something right now that's happening in the past or the future. You can't be seeing something. You can't be smelling, tasting, or feeling the ground under your feet in the past or the future. So that is how we ground ourselves in the present. And that's how we can have maximum focus and maximum access to our skill in the moment. And truly, that all becomes much, much easier with the third thing that I mentioned is acceptance. So acceptance, again, as we've talked about, as I struggled to have yesterday, just watching golf, let alone Rory as he's playing this momentous round. Acceptance means I'm going to experience whatever I experience, I'm going to see it as it is without the need to change it. When I hit my shot into the creek, I'm going to experience it and I'm going to see it without the need to change it. That is so hard. Imagine hitting that shot and saying, that happened. And that's it. And that's your response to it. That is probably the hardest thing. That's what golf makes so difficult because it feels so much in our control. It feels like I can just make this ball get to where I want it to go. So that when it doesn't go well, it falls completely back on ourselves. It feels like I messed that up. And to be able to experience something like that and say, that happened. That is what it is. That happened. And nothing I can do now can change it. That's acceptance. But man, is that difficult. And I guess ultimately, Rory did that. After he hit his, 4 or 5 footer on the first playoff hole. Spoiler alert, Rory made that birdie on the first playoff hole to beat Justin Rose and win the Masters and the Career Grand Slam. Spoiler alert. ultimately, he got it done. And I don't know if that was in spite of his mental game or because of his mental game. I guess ultimately it was because he did good enough. We can never be perfect with our mental game. We can never be in flow for an entire 72 hole event. The moment's going to bring us out of the present. The situation we're in, the past and the future is going to yank us out. That's going to happen. So we have to give ourselves grace. Rory has to give himself grace, and I'm sure he is now that he's wearing a green jacket. So ultimately, Rory did that well. He could have done it better, I guess, if we're speculating what was going on in his mind. It. I know the situation that he was in. I know a similar version of it, of being under intense pressure. If I play well today, it will change my life. It will be a massive shift in my golf game, in the future of my career. I I was one good day of golf away from playing in the Masters. So I felt all these things. This putt is between me and playing in the Masters. So I need to make this so that I play in the Masters. My mind was not present in those situations. So I Rory needs to give himself grace, and because I know how he felt in that situation, or my own version of it, and you probably do too. So we have to give ourselves grace for the emotions we experience, the lack of presence, the being yanked out of the present into the past or the future. We have to give ourselves grace for when that happens. And that's acceptance. And then we come back to the present. We ground ourselves back into the present, like he did before the shot on 15, the second shot on 15. There is no chance he wasn't completely dialed, present, focused, freed up before that shot. That was an unbelievable shot. It was perfect. It landed in the exact perfect place. It rolled out to 10 feet under the most intense pressure situation, under the most consequential moment of his life. He hit the best shot he could. He landed in the exact spot he needed to land it. You can't make an argument that he was not fully present and fully freed up to hit a shot like that. And then the tee shots on 18 in regulation and the tee shot on in the playoff hole annihilated these beautiful cuts up the fairway to gap wedge distance. After having struggled with his driver all day, after struggling with tee shots all day, he steps up and assumingly he leaves all that in the past and comes back to the present and hits the best two tee shots of the day by far under the most intense pressure. And then hit a not great wedge shot on 18 in regulation, but then hit an incredible wedge shot to 4 feet or something in the playoff hole. So the kind of give and take of I'm present and I'm focused and I'm dialed and I'm in flow, I am mindful and I'm grounded and I'm freed up. And then the next shot, you are completely lost and the moment is taking you with it and you're trying to force a result. You're trying to put the green jacket on before you could even, before you're even at the clubhouse. That's what made this round so entertaining to watch, right? If he was perfect, completely robotically accepting, nothing fazed him, it probably wouldn't have been as entertaining. But as the golfer trying to perform, that's what we're going for. We're going for mindfulness, groundedness, and acceptance to allow ourselves to access our skill as often as possible. So that's my thoughts from the 2025 Masters. The Masters is the one tournament, the 1 week a year where I let myself be a kid again, where it just brings me right back into me as a kid, the 2005 Masters, watching Tiger chip in on 16. It just, nothing does that like the Masters does, and I let myself do it. I'm I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a homeowner, I'm a business owner, and I am living and dying by every single shot of a golf tournament that has nothing to do with me. So the Masters is incredible, and this particular Sunday of the Masters was unbelievable. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. I have a lump in my throat just thinking about the emotions that Rory had unleashed. The relief that he unleashed after he won was incredible. I had tears coming down my cheeks watching him do that. Just incredible. So, acceptance of your emotions, give yourself grace for when you're pulled into the future or the past. When you're in the moment, ground yourself in the present with mindfulness and acceptance. So, that's my thoughts. I'm sure you enjoyed the Masters. What an awesome tournament. I hope this was helpful to you. If it was, maybe you should sign up for my weekly newsletter, The Mental Regrip. We release one every Wednesday. I talk about my thoughts from maybe recent golf events or something in a psychology book that I'm reading or random thoughts from my own golf game. That's my outlet for writing about that kind of stuff. I don't get to do that as much on the podcast. I don't let myself do that as much on this podcast. I reserve it for more polished, the science of psychology type of podcasts. So my outlet for much more personal stuff is the Mental Regrip newsletter. So you can check out the link to that in the show notes, or you could go to joshnicholsgolf.com/newsletter. I think it's a great free weekly resource. Over 3,000 people read it every week. So go check it out. So this has been the Mental Golf Show. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being a listener. I'm Josh Nichols, and I will catch you guys next time.